Fleur Hassan is Israel's special envoy for trade and innovation and former Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme. Your reaction to the UK government suspending the trade negotiations?
It's a shame that they've politicised a war that we didn't start, a defensive war. We didn't want any of this. We had tried. We've had 5 wars with Gaza, all of them started by them. We left Gaza in 2005. A few months before October 7th, we'd issued 20,000 work permits for Gazans, and unfortunately they used that to reconnaissance houses, to burn people, rape women, and basically undergo a massacre, and that's what happened on October 7th.
And here we go again. Israel's PR tour rolls on, and this time it's led by Fleur Hassan, who I can only describe as a diplomatic witch doctor trying to put on a band-aid on a bullet wound with glitter. She opens her charm, offensive, claiming this war was defensive, then casually strolls through accusations like, we gave Gaza 20,000 work permits and they repaid us by reconnaissance and rape. Yeah, because somehow every Palestinian with a job application is a sleeper cell now. But before we even catch our breath, Fleur does what every loyal Israeli spokesperson does: blame the blockade on Hamas, starve civilians, and then blame it again for starving. It's like watching someone set a house on fire and then yell at the kids for not having fire insurance. Meanwhile, Tom Swarbrick from LBC, to his credit, actually grows a backbone and pushes back, reminding her that humanitarian law still exists even if Netanyahu misplaced the rulebook. And when she's caught dancing around Israel's role in breaking ceasefires, starving kids, and blocking aid convoys, she pulls the classic trick. It's the curriculum's fault. It's the UK funding indoctrination. No, Fleur, kids aren't dying because they read bad textbooks. They're dying because you won't let food trucks in. Spares the TED Talk on your Catch-22 while babies are drinking salt water. Let's dive into this.
Now, what is a country supposed to do?
A country can't. I'm afraid a country cannot deprive innocent people, particularly civilians, food and water.
Right.
Can't do it.
You're right, but let me tell you the dilemma that Israel is in. Let me share with you that dilemma. We had a ceasefire a few months ago, and lots of food and water flooded into the Gaza Strip. In fact, by any estimation, they should have had food and water till July. But what happens? Hamas steals the aid and then sells it to people at a premium. And with that money, they continue to fund the terrorism against our soldiers. So we're in a catch-22 because we let the aid in like we've been doing the whole time, and Hamas used that as the mechanism to keep funding the war. So instead, what we try to do is the aid flooded in for a month and a half, and that was supposed to be enough, and Hamas stole the aid. So what are we doing right now with the Americans? We're setting up humanitarian zones where families can come and get their food and water, and we can prove that they're getting it and not Hamas is getting it and selling it at a premium, because that's what's been going on.
The aid agencies say there is limited evidence that they have seen for Hamas stealing enough of the aid to make it a viable method to raise funds for the effort to bomb Israel or fire rockets into Israel. The ceasefire agreement which you describe was not, I don't think, the reason given for breaking it, as Israel did, was because Hamas was able to fund itself through collecting this aid. Israel broke that ceasefire agreement. And it still is not a justification for not allowing that aid into innocent people, particularly when the humanitarian agencies themselves say, we can guarantee that this doesn't get to Hamas.
Well, let's unpack this. They haven't guaranteed that it didn't get to Hamas. Not only that, unfortunately, a lot of the aid agencies are employing Hamas, as we've proved with the UNRWA that has been employing Hamas, that are in cahoots with Hamas.
That's one aid agency. One aid agency.
Oh, please, come on. There's
it is. It's one aid agency.
One of the main ones. And all the aid agencies are working with Hamas, are under the chokehold of Hamas, and everybody knows that to be true. Hamas
is there any evidence for that?
Depriving their people. There's plenty of evidence for that. They're depriving their people of food. They're hiding in tunnels like cowards, and they are letting the innocent people face the music for what they started, and they use those people as human shields. Now, what message is the UK sending today to terrorists all around the world? What they're saying is, listen, you can attack a country completely unprovoked. You can attack, you can rape, you can kill, you can take hostages, and then you can hide behind your civilians. You can steal food from your civilians. And in fact, it's the country that was attacked that are going to get sanctioned. It's a bad message for the rest of the world.
The message that Israel might be sending.
Encouraging terrorism all around the world, because
the
Israel,
encouragement of terrorism might also be, if I may, Fleur, just for a moment. No, just if I may for a moment, Fleur. The message that Israel might be sending and the encouragement of terrorism that Israel might be fostering is to put in a blockade of food and water to otherwise innocent people, particularly children, which will only, which could well be a breach of humanitarian law and international law, and two, as well as potentially a war crime, and two, further enrage the population in Gaza sufficient that the next generation of terrorists are going to be brought about.
I don't buy that anymore. The next generation of terrorists are brought about by the indoctrination that was funded by the educational system that UK also helped to fund. I met with many, many leaders in your country, and I said to them, look, you're taking us further away from peace, from funding a curriculum of hatred rather than closer to peace. That's what's going on here. Ultimately, there is food aids going in. Today there were trucks going in.
9.
But we have to be efficient with that aid. What does that mean? If we let that aid get into the hands of terrorists, then we've done nothing for the local population. We've done nothing for the local population. And that's the bottom line. So what we're doing is...
Well, some aid is better than no aid, I'd have thought.
We're creating
But
zones.
it is, because then children can eat.
Do you think that it's okay for Hamas to be selling and profiting from selling aid to the parents of those children that
Absolutely
at this point
not.
may not afford it?
But I think it's
that's
worse.
What's going on.
I think it's worse to have children not have anything to eat.
You're 100% correct. But these children weren't getting the aid because Hamas was stealing it. Hamas were taking trucks and drivers at gunpoint.
Why would Israel act in the way that Hamas is acting by not giving that aid to those children? Why would Israel do a similar thing by not allowing any aid in for 11 weeks?
We're trying. You're correct, but we're trying a new mechanism, and the new mechanism is not just letting the trucks go in and God knows what happens to them, which is what was happening up to now. We are letting the trucks go in. We have Americans on the ground. We've just had lots of American private companies come into the ground. They're going to be controlling the aid. They're going to be seeing the ID of people collecting the aid to make sure they're not terrorists. That's what's happening from now on.
Right.
Because otherwise, we're in a catch-22 where we are funding the enemies that are attacking us.
Fleur Hassan, the human smoke machine, puffing out half-truths, spin cycles, and enough mental gymnastics to qualify for the IDF Olympic team. She came armed with the usual script: we're the victims, they're the monsters, aid is dangerous, and starving kids is somehow a counterterrorism strategy. But Tom actually brought reality to the table. He didn't just tiptoe around talking points, he bulldozed through them. He dared to ask, why are innocent children paying the price for your military blunders? Why is food a bargaining chip? And of course, Fleur had no answers. Just the usual finger pointing, victim blaming, and bizarre obsession with school curriculums. Let's be clear though, the world is not buying it anymore. Your humanitarian theater is over. The propaganda script is outdated. Gaza isn't just a war zone, it's a mirror. And what we're all seeing in the reflection is the regime starving civilians, weaponizing aid, and still accepting applause. Too late, Fleur. The curtains drop. The world is wide awake, and no amount of spin can put this genie of genocide back in the bottle. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, y'all. Comment down below what y'all thinks of this video. Catch you later.